What's going on, ladies, gents, and kids of all ages? It is Eric coming back at you once again from the Nerd Cave, and today we are talking about a deck list that I am very excited about. It's something I've been rattling around for a while, since the last set, honestly, and it focuses a lot from cards from the last set, so if you don't have a ton of Archazia's Island cards and you want to build a deck that can be pretty competitive, I think this is a fantastic option. The deck list is definitely not what I would consider a budget deck list, so if you've been playing heavily in the prior sets, you're definitely going to own the cards that you need here. I am playing Rapunzel's in this deck list. You can potentially replace those with Juliet and Madrigals. You'll lose a little bit of draw, but keep that in mind when you're looking through this deck list, because I know I always get comments from people who are saying, hey, Rapunzel, can't afford it, so give me an alternative option. Keep that in mind. But before we jump into that deck list, as always, a big shout out to the Patrons for making the giveaways on the channel possible. Could not do any of this without you guys. We are so very close to 3,000 subs, so if you feel so inclined, slap that subscribe button. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into talking about this Amber Sapphire Queenly deck list. So speaking of being queenly, the first card we are going to be playing, and one of the cards that is a fantastic combo piece in the deck, is going to be the Queen Royal Monarch, a 1-cost inkable 2/2 stat line questing for 1 and sitting here as a shift target. And then we jump immediately over to a second shift target, very similar type of card, and that is going to be Kita Atlantean, a 1-cost inkable 2/2 stat line questing for 1. So exact same. Those are going to be our primary shift targets. We have been talking a lot on this channel about how relevant the steel meta is right now, so you do need that alternative counterplay, and this isn't going to be as focused on what the deck is trying to do, but it's a fantastic turn 1 play into those steel matchups, and that is going to be Daisy Duck Donald's Date, a 1-cost uninkable 1/4 stat line questing for 2 with the ability, when this character quests, you look at the top card of your opponent's deck, and if it is a character card, they can put it in their hand. If not, though, it's going to the bottom of their deck, so sometimes it can be good into those action heavy or item heavy matchups, and it is just a fantastic quester to put a lot of lower pressure on your opponent right at the beginning of the game. Jumping over to the 2-cost slot, another non-princess character in Tipo Growing Sun, a 2-cost inkable 1/2 stat line questing for 1 with, when you play this character, you may put a card from your hand into your inkwell face down and exerted. Keep in mind that card does not have to be inkable, so Tipo is a great way to get rid of uninkables that may not be favorable to you early in the game. Also on 2, we have Aurora Tranquil Princess, a 2-cost inkable 1/3 stat line questing for 1 with ward, so really good into those steel matchups. Gonna be difficult for your opponent to be able to remove. Obviously it dies to something like me if you do decide to exert it, but if you just need a shift target, she is a great option. Also on 2, and a great follow-up to Daisy when you're trying to aggro your opponent out, is going to be Anna Braving the Storm, a 2-cost inkable 1/4 stat line questing for 1. But if you have another hero character in play, which is entirely likely in this deck, because if you haven't noticed with Lorcana, a lot of princesses and even some of the queens are also classified as heroes. So you look at something like Anna, she is a queen, she is also a hero, and if you have another hero character in play, she's getting +1 lore. She's questing for 2, just like those Daisy Ducks, but with no drawback. Also in the 2-cost slot, we are on 4 Lilo Escape Artist, a 2-cost inkable 1/2 stat line questing for 2. At the start of your turn, if this card's in your discard, you may play her and she enters play exerted. So you do have to pay the ink cost, keep that in mind, and you do have to do it before you draw. So try to play this card when it's relevant to you. She is not a princess or queen, so she is another exception to the rule with this deck. However, she is a hero, so she is going to be triggering Anna's ability, which is great. And with Sapphire Amber, you have a tendency to kind of lose card advantage, so being able to have a character that you can recur multiple times when you're running out of cards to play from your hand can be really good. Next up, still in the 2-cost slot, we're on 2 One Jump Ahead, a 2-cost uninkable action song. Put the top card of your deck into your inkwell face down and exerted. This card is great because it is not costing you any resources from your hand. It's just putting something straight from the top of your deck, and it's singable, so it's a good way to ramp in the early game. If you play something like Tipo on 2, you can use Tipo to sing One Jump on 3 and get that extra ramp. Be ready to start really kind of overrunning your opponent. Next up, the card that inspired me to build this deck, and the card that I think really makes the deck come together and work super well, is Queen Sensor Core, a 2-cost inkable item. At the start of your turn, if you have a princess or queen character in play, you're going to gain 1 lore straight up. So if you have most of the characters in this deck in play, you're going to be able to gain 1 lore for each Queen Sensor Core you have in play, which is phenomenal. And pay 2 and exert it. Reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a princess or queen character card, you may put it in your hand, otherwise put it on the top of your deck. So we have 37 queen and princess characters in this deck, 37 queen and princess cards. cards. So you have about a 65% chance of that hitting, which is actually pretty good and is a potential way for this deck to again generate some of that card advantage that it ends up losing in prior sets in those later turns. So if you have something like this and that Lilo, you could potentially be essentially generating 2 additional cards every turn, 2 ink for each, and if you're being able to ink ramp, it's very likely you're going to have that extra ink available. Next up, we have 3 Tiana Restaurant Owner, a 3-cost uninkable 1/4 outline questing for 2, with whenever a character of yours is challenged while this character is exerted, your opponent is going to have to pay 3 ink, which can be incredibly crippling for anybody's strategy, or that character is going to get -3 strength this turn. So it's going to make it so there's very few characters that could even take out Tiana without paying that 3 additional ink. Not to mention there's other characters in your deck that are going to be quite difficult to remove, like the following character, which is Moana Determined Explorer, a 3-cost uninkable 3/4 outline questing for 2. Just a fantastic alternative to something like those Scrooge McDucks we saw get popular. They are, of course, a 5/5 for 4 questing for 2, which is a phenomenal stat line, but 3/4 is still really good, and the fact that she is a hero and a princess works really well with what this deck is trying to do. Next up, our fantastic combo piece when we get those big queens into play is going to be World's Greatest Criminal Mind, a 3-cost inkable action song. Banish chosen character with 5 strength or more. Obviously great against those big baddies, but if you've been around on the channel for a long time, you've probably heard me talk about World's Greatest Criminal Mind before in combination with the queen. So let's just kind of skip ahead, fast forward, and we'll talk about her more when we get there. To the queen as a 5-cost shift for 2, and whenever this character quests, chosen opposing character gets -4 strength this turn, and chosen character gets +4 strength. So keep in mind that chosen character getting +4 strength doesn't say opposing, and it doesn't say it has to be one of your characters. So you can target any character, including opposing characters, so you can give an opposing character -4 strength, potentially get a favorable trade, and give an opposing character +4 strength, and then all of a sudden World's Greatest Criminal Mind is able to remove almost any character in the game that doesn't have ward. Next up in the 4-cost slot, you gotta have her. She is just too good to be able to kind of keep up with that card draw, which, like I mentioned, is a really important thing to be able to do with Amber Sapphire, because it is something this color combination can struggle with, and that is going to be Rapunzel gifted with healing, a 4-cost inkable 1/5 stat line questing for 2. She is a hero and a princess, again fantastic in combination with the other cards we're playing, and when you play this character, remove up to 3 damage from one of your characters, draw a card for each 1 damage removed this way. So she is potentially going to heal something for 3 and draw 3. We have lots of good targets with this. Tiana has 4 willpower, Moana has 4 willpower, those Daisy Ducks have 4 willpower, so we have some great cards to be able to play early in the game that are going to be able to take advantage of this Rapunzel, not to mention the cards that are coming after her. The first, and certainly not least of which, being this Aurora Lore Guardian, a 4-cost inkable 3/3 stat line questing for 2, shifting for 2, so able to shift very early in the game and very cheaply, and opponents can't choose your items for abilities or effects. So plain and simple, what she is going to do is, if you're worried about your opponent playing some kind of item removal, which hasn't totally gone away, there's still definitely people playing things like Benja, you are going to be able to throw down something like this shifted Aurora, and all of a sudden your opponent can't target those items if they want to play something like Benja, so all of a sudden they are out of luck when it comes to being able to remove that item. Next up in the 5-cost slot, we've got another Aurora, and that is going to be Aurora Dreaming Guardian, a 5-cost inkable 3/5 stat line questing for 2, shifting for 3, and your other characters gain ward. So she's not going to give herself ward, but she's going to give all your other characters ward. So much like that other Aurora we talked about protecting your items, this one is going to protect your characters. They're both incredibly situational cards, which is why there are 2 ofs and not 3 ofs, but they both can be really good in the right situation. Next up, we have 3 the Queen Commanding Presence, a 5-cost inkable 4/3 stat line questing for 2, shifting for 2, so another 2 shift. We have some very cheap shifts in this deck, and whenever this character quests, chosen opposing character gets -4 strength this turn, and chosen character gets +4 strength this turn. We kind of broke that down already with the World's Greatest Criminal Mind, but it's just a great way to get even more favorable challenges is by using the Queen. And like I mentioned, she comes down so early in the game, she could just be absolutely aggressive. Next up, we are on for Kita, like I mentioned with those shift targets early on in this deck, I'm sure you saw all of this coming. She is a 5-cost inkable 3/5 stat line, shifting for 3, so again a fairly inexpensive shift, questing for 2, and when you play this character, all characters get -3 strength until the start of your next turn. Keep in mind that is going to be impacting your characters as well. It's going to make it very difficult for your opponent to get favorable challenges, especially when you start combining something like Kita with something like Tiana that's making them have to pay ink to get favorable challenges, or they're getting an additional -3. It's really going to make it super tough. And Kita doesn't affect characters coming down with Rush, however Tiana will, so they kind of counterbalance each other. They both have their point in the deck, and when you stack them together, they're even crazier. And the final card in the deck, we are on 3 Let It Go, a 5-cost inkable action song. This is just to get those oh no big guys out of your way, because you don't have a ton of super strong characters in this deck. You're focused more on reducing your opponent's strength. Obviously you can combine some things with Queen to be able to get some big attacks, but more often than not you're not really doing that. So when those big characters come down and hit the board, the best thing you can do is get them out of your way, and you have lots of 5-cost singers to take advantage of Let It Go, a 5-cost inkable action song that's going to put chosen opposing character into that player's inkwell face down and exerted. Obviously not a big deal when you are also using ink ramp. If you ink ramp your opponent by 1, you're really just kind of catching them up on ink, which frankly isn't the end of the world if you're able to do it in exchange for removing a huge threat from your opponent's side of the board. What do you guys think of this Amber Sapphire list? Do you think the Queen Sensor Core is just absolutely silly to play? Are there heroes or princesses you think I overlooked for this deck list that you definitely think should be included, or ones that you think I shouldn't play at all? Always love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe if you're enjoying the videos. It helps us to get promoted to people who may enjoy the content that you're enjoying. And when you see those toys, video games, and deck lists featuring queens and princesses off in the distance, remember, it is not a mirage. You guys have a great day.